With us today are the parents of Edan Alexander, the last living American held hostage by Hamas. Thank you. Thank you. And we don't know how he's doing, really, do we? We don't know. We think we know, and hopefully positive. 2 months ago, we were pretty sure, and looked like he was getting out, but they've toughened up a little bit, and it's a terrible thing. I know what you're going through. A New Jersey boy, Eden, moved to Israel in 2022 and was taken hostage on the vicious October 7th attack on Jewish people. And now I will tell you that's an attack that would have never happened because the money was given by Iran to Hamas. Iran had no money when I was president. They were out of money. They were bust. They had no money. They weren't giving it to Hamas. They weren't giving it to Hezbollah. They weren't giving it to anybody because they didn't have any money, except for the election. Didn't turn out the way it should have. It was a rigged election, and we might as well say it. But it was totally rigged. It was disgraceful. Well, I think it's going to go down as one of the biggest. We wouldn't have, think of it, your son would be home. You wouldn't have had October 7th. Adi and Yael, cannot imagine your pain. I just can't. Adi and Yael. But we're all alongside of you. We stand by you. And we're going to do everything possible in a very short period of time. You know, as you know, things are heating up there. I've gotten a lot of hostages out. We were getting nobody out. A lot of them are out. But they want to do it as slowly as possible because they use them as pawns. It's a horrible thing, but we're working very, very hard to save your son. We have news coming out, both good and bad, but we're working very hard. And I have many parents seeing me. I was with hostages, 10 hostages that got out. They came about 3 weeks ago to the Oval Office right here. And they said to me, it was just terrible. And I said, interestingly, because, you know, you see, there's always some heart in somebody, you think. I said, so you've seen like hundreds of Hamas, right? Yes, yes. They lived in a pipe. They didn't really live in a tunnel. They lived in a pipe that was this big. They could barely breathe. It's amazing when one was in for 305 days, one was in for over 500 days. But I got them out, and through very tough, the whole thing was very tough. I said, did you ever see any love or kindness? Like, did any of these people that were guarding you, the Hamas people, did they ever look at you and say, don't worry, you'll be all right? Or did they ever look at you and say, I'm going to sneak you a little extra bread or a little extra something for eating? Did they ever give you any hope? He says, no, not one. I said, you mean, so not one person looked at you during your 1.5 years in there? One was there longer than that. One was there a little shorter than that, different times. I said, not one. No, they used to give us a smack on the face. They would never do that. They not one. So there wasn't one person out of hundreds that said, I'm going to sneak you a little bread. I'm going to make sure you get home safely. Not one. And that amazed me because in some really bad situations, you'd have some people like that. You'd have some people like that, but not one. And they were telling the truth. I mean, they were telling the absolute truth. And when I talked to them about the way they suffered, it was incredible. In fact, I'd say 4 or 5 looked very, very solid and normal, and 4 or 5 looked like they'd been through hell, but they were all through the same hell. And I looked at them, I said, I can't imagine what you've gone through, but we're going to do what we have to do. But I asked them a question. One was wearing 59, and I said, what does 59 represent? That's how many are left. I said, all right, well, get them out. I said, are they all living? No, 24 are living. I said, 24? He said, yeah, 24, only 24. So 24 out of the 59 are living. And they knew because they had just gotten out. And what are the others? The others are all dead. But I spoke to the parents of the others. And as much as you want your beautiful boy out, they want their beautiful boy, and for the most part, as you know, boys, young boys, for the most part. But they want him out so badly. I said, is he okay? No, he's dead. And they didn't even view them as dead. They needed the body of their son, and they knew they were dead. But think of that, out of 59, you had 24 that were living, and now I understand it's not even that number. And young people don't die. They're very resilient. You know, you don't have young people dying. Young people are killed. Old people die. They can't take it. They couldn't breathe in some cases. They had them in a pipe, closed at both ends. If you're claustrophobic, it's a big problem. And many people are claustrophobic. But young people live, old people die. But these were young people that were dying. So you know what took place?